Hello channel viewers, I am DS, your psychologist, and welcome to another episode on Channel NITT. So in our previous episode, we talked about the relationship between MBTI and tarot cards, and we matched every MBTI type to a court card in tarot. So in this episode, we're going to feature our first MBTI type and draw a parallel between the MBTI and tarot.
What a parallel line.
And for our very first episode, I am going to feature the ENFP, which corresponds to the Knight of Cups. So this is how we're going to go about this series. We will divide each of these episodes into 3 segments. So first, we're going to talk about the personality of the court card, and we see how it matches with the MBTI type that corresponds to it. Next, we will look at Waite and see how the imagery, how the feeling corresponds to the actual MBTI type. And finally, we use a separate deck and make a parallel between the MBTI and tarot. So without further ado, let's dive into the personality characteristics of the Knight of Cups, which corresponds to the ENFP. So if you Google the personality of the Knight of Cups, you are going to get these few adjectives. First, the Knight of Cups is romantic, the Knight of Cups is lovable, and artistic. So many of the ENFPs that I know are already married, so I'm not too sure whether you can use the word romantic to describe them. Many of the ENFPs that I know of could be described as artistic, but I think artistic is too generic a word. It could describe a lot of different people. So let's move on to the word lovable. So ENFPs are really very sociable people. They appear to really enjoy networking and being around others. So I would say that ENFPs can be described by the word lovable. Also, many internet sources would describe the Knight of Cups as charming, and I think this word does describe the ENFP because many ENFPs that I know of are very attractive. They appear to attract people to them. But of course, there are negative attributes to the Knight of Cups as well. So let's look at all these negative things about the Knight of Cups. First, the Knight of Cups appear to be in love with love and not with the person. So the Knight of Cups also appear to wear rose-tinted glasses, and they are usually overly optimistic about the future. While the Knight of Cups may look very stable, in fact they can be very dramatic, and they may show very strong emotional responses and can be influenced by the environment very easily. So immediately a few ENFPs come to my mind when I think of emotional instability, especially the younger ones. So this probably could be true. So I have worked with a lot of ENFPs. So in my personal experience with ENFPs, I think that they are really very enthusiastic and keen to help people. But most of the time, they appear to be really impractical. So I would describe ENFPs as happy-go-lucky and usually impractical because they are not grounded. So in this case, the description that we have so far of the Knight of Cups does correspond well with the ENFP. Okay, let's have a closer look with the Rider-Waite Knight of Cups. So if you look closely on the cloak of the Knight of Cups, you will find a lot of fish imagery, and this fish corresponds to being free-spirited. There are wings on the helmet and on the feet of the Knight of Cups, and this symbolically represents freedom of expression. So definitely I think that this does describe the ENFP very well. So on the card itself, you also see a river, and this river symbolically represents a flow of emotions. One thing to note though, all the knights in tarot are on horses. So if you want to draw a parallel between the MBTI and the tarot, then all the E something something P people are on horses in tarot. Very interestingly, when I look at the horse of the ENFP, even the horse looks very lovable. Now comparing all the different knights and horses, I find that the Knight of Cups is the most decorated, elaborately decorated knight. So of all the knights, the Knight of Cups appear to have the shiniest armor. So in real life, I do get from many ENFPs that I know of that appearances are very important. So they are usually very well dressed, they care about how they appear to others. Sometimes I even find that they are putting up a performance. but maybe I am also looking at them with tinted glasses. So if you are familiar with tarot, many tarot readers will also associate the Knight of Cups with being a sweet talker. In other words, they are the NATOs. No action, talk only. And when I look at it, the Knight of Cups does correspond to the ENFPs this way. So many of the ENFPs that I know of over-promises, but they cannot deliver. But if you really know the ENFPs well, this is not something that you can really fault them with. You can only say that this is a personal weakness of the ENFP. So given that the ENFP has NE as the dominant function, they want to entertain as many possibilities at the same time. So they will say, okay, let's do this, let's do that. But they did not know that practically it's impossible to do everything and they need to filter. So this is why they may tell you, okay, let's cooperate on this, let's work on this. They will tell different people that they are going to work on different projects. They try to match different people and do a broad network. However, sometimes it is going to fail because not everybody can be in sync. Also, the ENFP can be spread thin. So because NE can drift off very fast, because NE is always looking for new possibilities, sometimes the ENFP just floats or drifts away from a particular project. So they can leave a project incomplete, thinking that they will come back to it one day, but most of the time they just totally abandon the project. So in that regard, the ENFP and the Knight of Cups is very similar. So while NATO, no action, talk only, can be very harsh to describe the ENFP, I think one of the more appropriate slangs or slogans to describe the ENFP will be some action,
some action.
So I think a more appropriate slang or slogan to describe the ENFP is some action, leave halfway. Doesn't sound nice, right? SALH. Okay, let's move on to the third segment. We have other artists who also try to give their own interpretation of their understanding of tarot. So there are a lot of tarot decks in the market, and most of the time the imagery may be different from the original Rider-Waite. So one deck that I personally like a lot is the Black Cat's Tarot. So let's look at the Knight of Cups in the Black Cat's Tarot over here. So you can see the imagery has changed. Instead of facing right, now the Knight of Cups is facing the left. So it appears in this picture that the Knight of Cups is trying to offer some love to this maiden by the river. So one thing disturbing about this card is that while it looks really romantic on the surface, in practice, it is really impractical. So if the Knight of Cups wants to offer this lady the love, which is symbolized by the cups that he is holding, then it is natural for him to dismount and be at the same level as the lady that he is trying to pursue. But in this case, he's putting himself at a level that is high up. An indication of FI is very clear over here. It's about me, me, me. Look at how grand I am. So I think in real life, this does correspond to the ENFPs in a lot of ways. So now I'm going to show you the 4 Knights of Tarots all at once. As you can see, this is the Knight of Pentacles, Knight of Cups, Knight of Swords, and here we have the Knight of Wands. So these 2 Knights are actually moving, they are fast to go. However, here you see 2 stationary Knights. This is the ESTP and this is supposed to be the ENFP. So the ENFP is one of the Knights on a horse, but the horse is not moving. So what this also means is that the ENFP is fast to speak but slow to act. So in conclusion, overall I do think that the resemblance between the ENFP and the Knight of Cups is actually very close. I would say that the resemblance is at least 90%. So personally, I do hope that ENFPs are more grounded, they are more reliable in the sense that they follow through with what they say. Okay, so this is my first attempt at linking MBTI with tarot cards. If you have enjoyed this video, do remember to like or comment. Also, if there is any MBTI type that you really want us to do first, then comment below so that it can jump queue. And of course, if you have not subscribed, do consider subscribing so that we can bring you more MBTI and fun stuff. Okay, I'm going to sign off now and I'll see you in my next episode. Goodbye!